Hey, good morning, everyone, and welcome to InFUZEd, a monthly meetup where we can talk about marketing for manufacturers. My name is Steve Malidu, Senior Solutions Specialist and Content Expert for InFUZEd. Each month, as you may know, we have a guest speaker for a short introduction on a key topic, and then we break off to different tables to talk about marketing challenges and do some networking. We will have topic tables moderated by a InFUZEd expert or partner. You may have noticed the table names before we got started this morning. 10 people who attend today's InFUZEd event will be randomly selected to win a $5 Starbucks gift card. So be sure to look in your email for a notification if you've won. And if you're having any if you're having any technical difficulties today, or if you just want to ask a question for InFUZEd, visit our table on the left-hand side of the first floor. Now to introduce our speaker for today, Chris Scafario is the Chief Operating Officer at DVIRC. He works in Philadelphia and across the country with the Manufacturing Extension Partnership System or network, of which InFUZEd, of course, is a part. Shortly after joining DVIRC in 2007, Chris recognized the need to develop DVIRC's marketing and sales practice, also known as Business Growth Services or BGS. Under Chris's leadership, DVIRC's BGS team has grown to become the company's largest business unit, with over 160,000 project hours being delivered to more than 1,000 unique manufacturing firms from across the country and around the world. So on behalf of InFUZEd, I'd like to welcome Chris to the stage.
Thank you so much, Steve, and thanks to the audience for spending some time this chilly Monday morning in January with us. And I look forward to our conversation today and taking you through really some of the fundamentals that we've seen shape best practices for manufacturing lead generation, especially in the small to mid-sized manufacturing space. I've prepared some slides that I'll take us through today, so we can kind of get an understanding on how our organization, DVIRC, has spent the last 14 years helping many different manufacturers really get aggressive and positioned well to go out and find basically new sales opportunities. And just bear with me a second as I'm trying to share. All right. So I believe I can share. I believe my screen is being shared with the group right now. Is that correct? Any issues with the screen being shared?
You can see it, Chris.
Okay, great. Thank you. So today's subject, basically proven ways to generate leads for small and mid-sized manufacturers. Steve mentioned, been doing this for a long time and worked with many different manufacturers in Philadelphia, which is where our office is based out of, and across the country through MEP, Manufacturing Extension Centers, far and wide. One of the things that we've learned is that when we're able to take systems or a systematic approach towards growth and apply it towards new business development, some of the principles of lean or plan, do, check, act thinking, and put a process, standard work, and some key performance indicators into business outreach and marketing, you're in a very good position. You're able to make the whole approach towards growth more and more relatable. One of the other things that I've seen in the small and mid-sized manufacturing space is that growth is a struggle. We see year after year after year manufacturers that might be 20 or 30 or 40 person firms that haven't really been able to grow much at all over the last 5, 6, 7, even 10 years. maybe 20 in some cases. And we kind of came up with this name. It's the 20 for 20 crowd, risk adverse, slow to change, not really open towards exploring what growth could do for the organization. In many cases, it's almost like the leadership of these smaller businesses forgot that it's okay to be aspirational with regards to where they want to go. And there's a lot of data out there that suggests it. Every couple of years, Georgia Tech, the Georgia Manufacturing Partnership, does an incredible job surveying the market and understanding where needs or gaps are in their small and mid-sized manufacturing space. Year over year over year over year, when the data comes back, marketing and sales challenges and technical skills or workforce issues always are occupying the top 3 spots. One year, marketing and sales might be above technical skills and workforce, and vice versa. But even though we can't turn on a TV and listen to the news or pick up a newspaper and read an article about workforce challenges, there is still fundamental and often unspoken challenges that exist in the world of small and mid-sized manufacturing growth. And that really comes down to a lack of fundamentals. We've built a team that really helps function as kind of an outsourced marketing and sales unit for small and mid-sized manufacturers. We know 80% lack a strategic plan. Even fewer really have a growth strategy or marketing budgets in place. And we've tried to kind of build out the fundamentals and be an outsourced resource. That's how we've grown over the years. But today, I really want to just talk about some of the tools that I think should be on the top of your mind, as we're still really early into 2022. And I don't believe it's too late to make a couple new year's resolutions at this stage of the game. My dream and my goal is to get manufacturers that are small and mid-sized punching above their fighting weight. I want you to be able to position yourselves in a superior way to your competition. I want you to think about how you can go to market more efficiently and effectively than your peers. And this is where, as a national network of centers, I have a really, really exciting opportunity to kind of hear and see what's going on. And I try to bring the lessons learned from Oregon back to New York or to Delaware or to West Virginia, wherever it might be, so that manufacturers can see and get a feel for what success looks like if they haven't really been privy to innovation or market growth. As a result, I believe we've tried to build a hub for business growth or best practices here in Philadelphia. And as I mentioned in my first slide, we need to keep it simple. You don't have a lot of time or huge budgets to really think about, what kind of blue ocean strategy should I introduce to try and win some market share. We really try to benchmark the most simplistic tools for good business management that we can, and orient those tools towards the subject of growth, in this case, the subject of lead generation. Having a plan, working your plan, checking your progress, responding to what needs to get fixed or what needs to get replicated. Plan, do, check, act. It is truly our silver bullet when we look in our marketing and sales toolkit. I say that because there's an unbelievable amount of waste in new business development, in lead generation. Whether we're talking about a 10-person firm or a 200-person or multinational firm, it's remarkable the amount of waste and inefficiency that's packed into a typical sales process. Like in any continuous improvement effort, we want to streamline or eliminate that waste. We want the path to be clear and well-defined. In many cases, when we talk about lead generation and growth, we start with SMART goals, right? We want to be able to apply a process that has those specific direction, right? What are we trying to accomplish? We want to make it measurable, right? What does success look like? Is it 5 new clients a year? Is it one $5 million account in the next 24 months? What is that specific measurement of success that you'll ultimately be able to attain, right? It's something that's reachable, maybe with a stretch, but you want to be able to know that you can secure that. Making sure it's also relevant to the business and its success, and time-based. 5 new clients in the next 12 months, $5 million worth of growth in the next 24. Something along those lines gives you and your organization and all of its staff a true north to march towards, and it will help you punch above that fighting weight. The model that I believe we should be thinking about and talking about and working on really comes down to manufacturing growth being the result of 4 key initiatives. The first is pretty simple, and when we work with clients, it's a 4-week window. You might be able to do it a little quicker. I wouldn't suggest you spend much more time than 4 weeks understanding your competitive environment. We call it competitive benchmarking. But try to find what shapes maybe 4 or 5 of your rivals, how they go to market, what tools they use to market themselves on the web, maybe in LinkedIn, Facebook, if you're in a product-driven space, YouTube, all the different kind of spots on the web, and maybe even some of the trade associations and trade shows. Understand what they're selling into who. We kind of build these things called mind maps that kind of document each of the discoveries. But when you're doing a competitive benchmark, you want to look at things that relate to your likelihood of success, being able to win market share, take market share away from your rivals, and hopefully there's going to be a path of least resistance. If doing a competitive benchmark and some due diligence up front provides you with that path of least resistance, that window of an opportunity, your way forward, then a really good tactic would be to do what we call market scouting. Kind of form your business growth hypotheses. Based on what we've learned and discovered around our market, we believe we should go after these 3 key industries, targeting these specific decision makers with maybe 1 or 2 types of a value proposition, right? It's kind of an opportunity when you're doing market scouting to find new market segments to target or test new value propositions. Really go out there and explore what the potential for growth looks like in areas that might be a little bit unique or different to your kind of day-to-day. Once you've had the opportunity to validate or evolve or tweak your growth hypotheses, it becomes time to really ante up and spend time focusing on how you can dress up your business, your website, your marketing collateral, your sales team, to really talk about your ability to add value, your value proposition, your points of uniqueness, what makes you meaningful and unique to the markets that you're trying to target. In the spaces that we work within as manufacturing folks, it's often, almost always, a game of unseating a competitor, right? So we really need to be persuasive. We really need to build confidence. We really need to offer value that will overcome risk or perceived risk and provide a return on investment. So your marketing issues, or your marketing opportunities rather, are all about exuding confidence, being an organization that will offer something in exchange for someone's time, money, and trouble. As you get those items down and you start, chipping away the stone, because your digital marketing, your outbound marketing, it's not a set and forget thing. It's an evolutionary process where you constantly need to be looking at components of value, conditions in a market, and be responsive to how you can make someone's day a little bit brighter because of the way you provide a solution. Once that's thought through, good old-fashioned business development is essential, right? We call it lead generation. Lead generation is all about trying to understand your optimum play to market, all about trying to understand your target audience, your target decision makers, and make connections. Whether it's phone calls, direct outreach, whether it's making a list and making sure you connect with folks at trade shows, or any number of things we'll get into in just a moment. But I kind of wanted to set the stage for how I like to think about manufacturing growth. For lead generation, which I believe is kind of one of the most important priorities for businesses that really haven't fine-tuned their business development practices or don't really have a formal sales and marketing team, I say start with lead generation, because frankly, it's your opportunity to position yourselves. We kind of work on what we call a positioning report. Who are our competitors? What do we have to sell? Where are the opportunities, right? And then we kind of go out and we test and look at, growth trends in regions, and make sure that, if we find 60 companies a month that we think should be our clients, what percentage of them are actually interested in talking to us? We know calling on 60 companies that fit the right criteria generally produce between 5, maybe 6 leads per month of varying levels. So going out there and having, a set criteria, a defined value proposition, making the outreach through introductory emails, through maybe mailer campaigns, but most of all through actually picking up the phone and calling a decision maker that you believe should know about your business and what you bring to the table. That's important. That is the fundamental of business development. That's really our lead generation program at its core. And going through on a twice monthly basis and reviewing the leads and the opportunities, the lists that are working, the lists that aren't working, that's really so critical, right? For being able to fine tune the process. Market scouting, kind of put it in a different light, is really almost everything that lead generation is, but the one thing it's not, and the one thing I unfortunately neglected to mention in discussing lead generation is your opportunity to replicate your best accounts, right? So if you're selling into Pfizer or Lockheed or General Electric, what other divisions could you be calling on? Or what other like companies in maybe different regions could you be targeting? So lead generation is about replicating your key accounts. Market scouting is really the what if or how could we, right? Market scouting is, we do a really good job providing precision machined parts into aerospace. How could we enter into the medical device manufacturing space? Maybe we're not providing tier 1 support. Maybe we got to go down to tier 2 or 3, but what would success look like? So market scouting takes the same principles of let's go out and generate new revenue, but it applies it to more of a discovery phase and really targets industries that you're not currently servicing. In terms of risk versus reward, you do expose yourself to a little bit more risk because it's an unknown direction, but the reward is that you're going to have a diversified backlog or client portfolio if and when you are successful. Again, we always try to score on the side of person-to-person connections. So it's great to put together an introductory piece. I mean, we do introduce the company, introduce what we'd like to accomplish by way of a formal sales meeting. But that one-on-one, person-to-person call to deliver that elevator pitch is so critical in generating awareness, but also in market scouting, trying to discover the needs of an unknown market. Do they work with third parties? Where are they experiencing disruptions in their supply chain? Are they experiencing disruptions? Are they currently looking for backup suppliers? These are some of the discovery questions that can really help break into new markets. And the COVID environment, and now hopefully post-COVID environment, has created a sea of new opportunities, growth markets for manufacturers that really never thought about becoming, a personal watercraft manufacturer, recreational boating supplier, furniture, RV industries. I mean, there's some pop-up industries that came as a result of COVID that many, many, many contract manufacturers have been the incredible recipients of opportunity. And I have to say it now, and if we get to know each other down the road, I'll say it often. Just because you're busy now doesn't mean it's not a good time to look at other opportunities. Now is the time you can finance your growth. Now is the time you can bring technology in. You can build inefficiencies and tackle those new markets and grow your sales. It will ultimately impact favorably the value of your business. And as we go through, whether it's market scouting or lead generation, that role of competitive research really becomes so valuable, right? We're going to be learning who is buying from who and what they're buying. We're going to be learning, what is perceived as valuable in this market space. There's so much competitive data coming in through market scouting and lead generation. It's wonderful. That kind of flow of information often provides this really cornucopia of knowledge to shape digital marketing efforts. And the really wonderful thing here is, the web can be your great equalizer. And the more you can leverage new account development and new revenue growth to fund a marketing budget, one of the best spots you can put those new marketing dollars is into your website. So you can really, really begin to differentiate yourself. And if you're a 20-person company, you can look like a 200-person company just by doubling down on your value proposition, the markets you serve, the value you provide, and looking very credible when you're doing these things. So we really try to make the game of lead generation and business development very structured, very process-driven, where we look at the organization and say, as a seller, we're providing these markets a specific offering, a good or a service. As a seller, as an organization providing a service or goods, we understand the needs and the wants of our decision makers. And we've built a value proposition that really tightly aligns with what keeps that buyer or decision maker up at night. We take those value propositions, those unique selling points, and we build that into more formal and structured marketing and sales initiatives that take what was previously the Wild West and give an abundance of structure. We bring in the notion of managing through data and key performance indicators, and we plug that right into a lead generation process. Tracking the opportunities coming from that list of 60. You get 5, 6 leads. What percentage of those leads convert? Why don't they convert? Are we too expensive? Are we too slow to respond? What do we need to work on to become truly a best class provider of what we do? And these conversations feed growth strategies, not just for 6 months from now, but a year or two out. What do we want to really, really hang our hats on? Where do we want to find our success? I'll share this presentation with the group because I want you all to think about this great tool. The Ansoff Matrix is something that's been around for decades. It's nothing that I invented, but it's a tool that our team loves to use to kind of poke the bear of the clients that we are working with. Where do we want to go for growth? Are we looking about trying to penetrate into existing markets? Are we looking to find new markets? Do we have a new product or service we want to sell into our existing market? Or are we really trying to come up with something brand new for a new market? This conversation is one that every company in this country should be having, especially in the front end of a very challenging year for many, with workforce, with disruptions in supply chain. Where do we want to prioritize our efforts? Once you make that selection, run your plan by the numbers. You might take 100 companies in a particular market and realize that only 6 of them could be a good prospect. After you call and you communicate, only 4 to 6 of them might actually be qualified leads. But what we've seen over the years, again, 14 years of doing this, 12 in very structured fashion, A 33% conversion rate is right about on par with what small and mid-sized manufacturers present. A way of tracking it, a good CRM system. Our lead generation programs are built with a Salesforce module that our clients enjoy, being able to see, the list of 60 getting populated each month. In that 60, you can track how many calls did it take to get to a particular decision maker. It's typically between 12 and 14 calls before you're actually able to connect with someone. But it's amazing the progress you can make when you actually do connect with someone versus just sending them an email and hoping they'll respond. So your CRM system will keep track of all of your active outreach, your calls, your emails, your proposals. And this is what we use when we actually manage those twice monthly meetings in our program, that I would encourage you to kind of think about. What would we review in a twice monthly sales team meeting if you don't have that already? In this process, as you start to understand where your wins and losses come from, you can really start to formalize market segmentation and target the markets that are most receptive to your pitch, to your core competencies, what you do really well, and tweak and evolve your value proposition so that you are the formidable expert. You are the one worthy of trust and an investment over time with. In other words, it's really your optimal market mix. The great news is all of these segmentation initiatives can be tracked by NAICS or SIC codes. And they can be logged in any CRM system or even something as simple as an Excel file. But, if you were to think of it this way, let's just hypothetically say at some point down the road, you wanted to sell your business. And that investor said, you know what? I'd really like to know the markets that you serve. And you say, oh, well, we do a little bit of this and we do a little bit of that. We do some aerospace work. They're not going to pin as high a value on the business as they would if you were to really pinpoint the NAICS and the SIC codes, the dollar volume per segment, and conversion ratios and things like that a CRM system, we happen to use Salesforce, typically would. So the kind of moral of this point is segmentation, targeting, and positioning, STP, are really how you want to run your campaigns. And understanding the growth potential in your region by NAICS codes can really help set the table for success. You want to try to find the industries that offer growth that are in your region, and you can sort them out through any number of database houses, whether it's a Dun & Bradstreet or an InFUZEd. You can find them. We happen to build our own proprietary one based out of just a bunch of aggregate data. But the great thing is when you segment by region, you're tilting the odds of success in your favor. Over the years, we've seen most manufacturers operate within about a 300-mile radius of their organization when you're in that kind of 20 to 75 person size company. And the good news is that you can really target your audience to those segments in your region and become a regional expert or a regional best practice provider. It's not just good in your sales process, it's absolutely awesome to use when you're out doing your kind of digital marketing efforts and trying to position yourself as a local source of excellence by region. So there's a lot to be said for that. And as you go out and you kind of do your upfront positioning, as you go out and you understand the markets that are most responsive, you will be able to really fine tune your elevator pitch so that you're persuasive, you're credible, you're perceived as, a subject matter expert and worthy of the trust to convert someone. As that pitch gets refined, using as many different marketing tools as possible. Today, we're talking really about outbound marketing, the person-to-person connections. You want to think about, your handwritten letters, your emails, your person-to-person sales calls, whether it's a phone call introduction, a video conference like this, an on-site meeting. These are the tools that we see as being very important in lead generation. Your sales CRM systems, Salesforce, again, is kind of our favorite child, will help you kind of understand where your SMART goals are coming in. And more importantly, they'll help you understand what's working, what's not working. With our approach towards lead generation, we always coach our clients to fail fast and fail cheap. Don't wait 6 months to shift away from a market that's underperforming. I would argue you probably know within a period of 3 to 4 weeks whether or not a particular market segment is underperforming. And you don't want it, the time is precious. Don't waste it on trying to push a rock uphill. Just to kind of put some perspective into how we manage a lead generation process. We typically have 5 to 6 people working on a lead generation program. I know you might not have that many folks, but we have people in list research and pre-screening to make sure that the companies that are going into a list are the right companies to call on. We have people that really prioritize the value proposition. What are we going to say and to who are we going to say it? Then we have a team that actually implements the outreach efforts, whether we're doing a mailer campaign or whether we're doing email blasts. There'll be a group that kind of supports that initiative. But the lifeline of making this all work is we have an inside sales team that kind of understands the market, that understands the clients, prepares the pitch, delivers the pitch. And then in the inside sales team model, the opportunities that do come in get delivered to a salesperson that might be the road warrior or responsible for closing the business. In some cases, it can be an engineer or technical expert that has no time or interest in doing the upfront lead generation work, but they're really gifted at being able to build that credibility and trust because they are such a good technical expert. In these instances, the leads are entered into Salesforce. In all these instances, the leads are entered into Salesforce. But if they're going to be sent to a new recipient, they'll be sent via email, automatically generated to Salesforce, through Salesforce, to the lead owner. So, in other words, it's an opportunity to really help manage the pipeline. On the biweekly calls, progress is reviewed. What's early stage lead generation? Has the lead been qualified? Is there an opportunity to convert it? Is the lead into a proposal format? What's the proposal value? What's the likelihood? What's the timeline? These are all best practices, right? These are all the things that high performing sales teams do. It's important to take this simple but meaningful quote to heart, right? What gets measured gets managed. And marketing is a process, right? So we need to really measure and manage our performance using that plan, do, check, act thinking, setting up the SMART goals. Because what gets managed gets improved, right? I can tell you the companies that have really, really taken this process-driven approach to heart haven't just seen incremental growth. They've seen 10, 15, 20% growth over a period of not long. Within 18 to 24 months, you can really see habits change and growth come in dramatic fashion. So success truly does breed success. This whole line of conversation can build such an engaged and empowered workforce if you build task owners and get people excited about growth and get people falling in love with opportunities. So much great things can happen. So that's the presentation on lead generation and beyond, right? It's kind of a way of thinking. How do we add value to the world around us? Small and mid-sized manufacturers are remarkable problem solvers. They're gifted. Some of the technical expertise, some of the passion to do right for their clients are unprecedented. But we got to be able to be outward facing. We got to be able to get in front of as many clients as possible. The approach we use, and I can share all the details in the Q&A session if there's questions, really comes down to this. Target 60 companies that you believe will gain some form of insight or value from just learning about you. Prepare a value proposition that will articulate where you think you can contribute to the advancement of that prospect. deliver that pitch, right? That elevator pitch. Get their feedback, evolve and adapt as needed. But along the way, do your best out of that list of 60 to generate 4 to 6 qualified people that say, you know what, I have this challenge I'd like to talk to you about. I have this quote I'm looking to get a response from you for. Take that to heart, make that your goal. And as you go through that, realize you're not going to win them all, but about a third to 40% of those quotes, you should be doing a really good job at converting, whatever in line with whatever your typical sales cycle might be. That's kind of 14 years worth of us doing our thing, baked into one pretty quick presentation. Hopefully there's some questions or some thoughts here. Your feedback is really welcome. I love these conversations and would love to hear from you.
Chris, that was super helpful. Thank you so much. I really liked what you said, that lead generation is about replicating your best accounts. Basic, but often overlooked. And to really not be afraid to pick up the phone for your salespeople still comes down to a lot of that. So a lot of good stuff from Chris today. Chris is going to be at the lead gen table if you'd like to ask him some more questions in person. You can also type into chat if you like. I'm going to go through a couple of things very quickly. InFUZEd is looking for some testimonials for our website. Any testimonials selected will get a backlink to your website, which, as you know from previous webinars, backlinks from a nonprofit like us are especially valuable for SEO. So please provide a testimonial, name, title, company name, and website URL. The way to do that is to send a private chat message to Paul Hook, InFUZEd's marketing manager. Paul is here. So that would be extremely helpful for us both. The other tables today that you'll see on the floor, they have topic names and they're moderated by InFUZEd experts in that area. If you have something to share or to ask, you can just go to those tables. For branding and strategy, there's Paul Hook and Kim Lloyd. On websites, we've got Brent over there and tools. Eric, who runs our solutions program, is on hand today, and Patty from our innovation fund is also here. I'm going to be at the content and SEO table myself. Last but certainly not least, our partner Kurt Anderson from B2B Tail will be at the e-commerce table and would certainly welcome your questions. So when we're done today, we'd also like to offer a free needs assessment to anybody that would like to get assistance getting your next project started on the right foot. The way to do that is to go to fusehub.com/expert-consultation. You can also just go right to fusehub.com and look for a button on the homepage. We try to make it as easy as possible for you to engage us and ask for help. Just let us know what you need. I'm going to put this link in the chat as well. And then finally, after the networking ends at noontime, the conference will automatically close, of course. Thank you for joining us here today. And if you have any questions, please head on over to the lead gen table and talk to Chris. He's ready to answer them for you. Thank you.
Thank you.